and now we're live on Facebook. So I didn't know. I'm learning how to do all of this live stuff.
Could I be in an episode, Daddy?
Maybe eventually, but right now, right
No.
now, I'm going to talk a little bit about vocal technique, and I don't think that you want to be in on that.
Mm,
Yeah. Okay. Come on.
no, I
Come on.
want to be in.
No, seriously. Leave. Okay. Bye, Millie. Seriously.
No,
Okay.
Daddy.
So listen. Hey, Millie, for real. Where I left off last time, and if you haven't checked out the first episode, it's available on Western Hurt Baritone Facebook page as well as my Facebook profile page. And now I'm trying to do them on the Instagram as well. So hopefully this will work out. What we were talking about were sort of pitfalls and moments that I've experienced in my career, which I should probably say, in addition to the occasion that I received, I've sung at some fancy places and some not so fancy places, and everywhere in between. So I've had a wide array of opera and concert as well as recital performances throughout my career, and I feel like I led a little bit with my undergraduate experiences of having some issues and difficulties with figuring out my top and how to even successfully access my top, but then have something that I could rely on. And like I said, eventually when I got into graduate school, I think without me knowing it, I was singing with a great deal of muscular tension and muscular effort in an attempt to sort of make it happen. And one of the things that I loved about my teacher at Indiana University, Dr. James McDonald, who unfortunately has passed away, but he was such a wonderful teacher and a wonderful listener. And he was not a man of many words, but when he spoke, it was with such clarity, and it really, really helped me free up my sound. He talked a lot about primal singing. He talked a lot about singing, reactionary singing. I remember he would say this one thing to us. He'd say, if somebody, he was a tenor himself, and he would say, if somebody told you that it was going to snow today, well, it's 101 degrees out here in Houston, Texas. So if somebody told you it was going to snow today, what would you say? Huh. And that sort of reactionary kind of primal tone creation or production of sound really helped me get out of my set in stone. If I was going to, I think I was coming from a place where, and now granted, I'd also done a year or at least a 9-month tour with the National Opera Company where I was singing, I think we sang something like 65 or so performances of Barbara Seville. And then we also took out on tour John Philip Sousa's El Capitan, the well-known operetta that he wrote. I doubt anybody ever knows that. And then we did Hansel and Gretel, and we did Marriage of Figaro. So after that performing experience and singing, probably very poorly, but just sort of, making it work, I was in much need of some therapeutic voice lessons to learn and get back in touch with my body and understand how we can find the biggest bang for your buck, but with the least amount of effort. And Dr. McDonald was the man who introduced me to Giovanni Battista Lamperti and his teachings, which have been very helpful with me as a singer, but also as a teacher. I'll probably throw out a few quotes along the way. I think I used one last week. The difficulty in learning how to sing is finding its simplicity. I think that's probably my favorite quote. He also has another great one. The golden rule of singing is to know the result before we act. I think that's awesome. But I will say that growing up in Houston, Texas, and you can hear my speaking voice, it's pretty frontal. It's got a lot of I don't know, what do you call it? Not ping. I mean, it's got ping to it, but it's got like kind of not a bit of a nasality to it, but I mean, it's not like I go around talking like this. You ever seen Tiger King? But it has a very brassy sort of timbre to it. And I think that when I learned in graduate school to let go of all that muscular tension and just sing with this sort of primal, effortless tone, I think what I ended up with was a very healthy, but a very kind of plain um, quality. I was singing very easily. I wasn't, I sort of learned how to free myself of that muscular effort. But I had everybody and their dog telling me that I was a tenor. I cannot count how many people suggested that I look at Siegfried or that I look at, just the Helden tenor repertoire. Um, and looking back on it, I can understand why. By that time, once I had sort of rid myself of that muscular effort in my singing, the top opened up and I had access. I wasn't turning purple when I was singing G's. And let's see, I think A flat were still during graduate school. G's were very confident and comfortable, but A flats were a little bit scary still. Um, so yeah, I mean, I didn't turn 8 shades of purple when I sang up there, but at the same time, I had this very vernacular, let's say, approach to singing, and therefore the timbre was just very. It was beautiful and it was free and it was good and I was musical, but it didn't have that sort of baritone sound. So that was a struggle to work through, and it was something that I sort of carried through with me all those years in grad school. So that's messaging is that he's very clear with what he teaches. It's a very black and white, sort of clear cut. Here are these exercises. Each exercise is specifically designed to do a specific thing. And in addition to those things, he talks a great deal about vowel refinement and the difference between vernacular vowels, the way we speak, right? How our normal pronunciation affects the timbre of our sound, our speaking voice, and that of purposefully refining a vowel. And I quote him in my lessons that I teach on a regular basis. And the thing that sticks out to me the most is how we choose to define or refine our vowel is what determines the timbre of our sound. And so if we purposely want to sing with as much operatic resonance throughout the entirety of our range with the least amount of effort, we have to find ways to refine our vowels so that they possess that type of operatic resonance. And that I certainly learned from Stephen Smith, and I so appreciate his teachings. Millie, oh my goodness, you can't ever have a moment of peace around here. Anyway, this is her lasso of truth. Wonder Woman. Okay, for real, Millie. Exit stage right, please. Now, go. So those are the three significant sort of pitfalls that I fell into with vocal technique. Having a really hard time accessing my top in undergrad, and then through graduate school, freeing that up, but still, having issues with people thinking that I was a tenor and not really understanding how to find that baritonal sound. And then the next pitfall that I found myself into was that I was, on my way through my career after I graduated Juilliard. I was very fortunate that I started singing almost immediately through the successful round of auditions, and I had acquired management representation at the end of my first year at Juilliard. And it was interesting because I now possessed the right color of sound for the repertoire that I was offering and performing. However, the feedback that I started to eventually receive was that it didn't sound like there was enough core to the voice. It didn't sound like there was enough ping in the sound. Like it was sort of hollow. And that to me was the most frustrating because I was so confident in my technique at this point. Stephen Smith even wrote a book called The Naked Voice, which I highly recommend. And I'm one of the demonstrating voices on all the tracks, showing how to do the different exercises and so forth. And while I was studying with him, I was so confident in what he taught and how I understood it and interpreted it, and was able to use that on stage. So to get the feedback that I was sounding like I had a hole in my sound, I was confused and frustrated and didn't really know what to do. However, eventually, you keep plugging away at it and you keep singing for people, and eventually, ideally, if you're singing for the right people and keeping your ears and your eyes and your mind open, you find something that clicks. And for me, Kevin Murphy, incredible coach, pianist, administrator, everything. Okay, Millie, for real, come on. He really helped pinpoint the issue, and immediately, I remember him having me do a little exercise where he asked me to make this noise. He said, "Do this, go." Huh. And I was like, "Okay." And I think maybe for the first time, I felt what that suspension of closure feels like in the vocal cords, and felt how low in the torso support could be achieved. And for me, it just like a huge light bulb went off. And I realized that, I'm a big guy, I'm a strong guy, and I have a strong voice. And I was able to get away with a lot without ever really feeling that my singing was connected to my full instrument. And that led me to find Stephen King, who is still my current voice teacher, who helped to hone that idea and to open up a whole new idea of resonance, and while making sure that the chords are always closed. And I think that was my issue, was that I was using too much air, certainly as I ascended into the top of my range. And because of that, I was actually abducting the chords instead of adducting them. And so, I'm glad that I was able to sort of catch it when I did, and was able to make that adjustment, and, now have the ability to sing freely with good closure in the chords, connected to my full instrument, to the lower torso, while choosing purposely refined vowels to allow for optimal operatic resonance with the least amount of effort, with the same kind of freedom and energy that my grad school teacher taught, as well as the energy and gusto that my initial teacher taught from undergrad. So I really feel like that, while, each teacher that I had, me personally, I ended up having some kind of like mental block of not understanding what they were saying, or physically just not ready to adapt to what they were teaching. And but I wouldn't have it any other way. I would, if I could go back and change anything, I just would have, been in the library maybe a little bit longer, worked a little harder on in the practice room. But I would never go back and change the teachers that I've had. I feel very fortunate to have worked with each of them, and sincerely thank them for the work that they did and are doing. So I think that's probably what I wanted to say about myself. Next week, I'm going to offer episodes with some guests. We have some exciting guests coming up on this show. I will name a few for you. I mentioned him today. My current teacher, Stephen King, is going to be on the show at some point. We've got an incredible Egyptian bass, Ashraf Suwailam, is going to be on the show. We've got some friends from academia, Kimberly Gratling James. We've got her on deck. So, and a variety of others. So, I hope that you enjoy these talks. And I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about myself, but I wanted to let everyone know that, we all struggle. We all have these pitfalls. We all have these, misunderstandings or missteps. But then we also have these aha moments. And, I can't help but try to encourage the younger singers just to understand that it's all about the journey, and it's all about making sure we pay attention to what's in front of us, and not worry so much about when what making it, whatever that is. You never make it. You continue on your journey. So that's it about me. I guess I should say I'm going to be joining the full-time voice faculty at the University of Missouri Kansas City in the fall, which I'm very excited about. Hopefully we will all be in person and figure out creative and wonderful ways of adapting because of the coronavirus and everything. But I look forward to working with my studio there and the other voice faculty members and that community. It's going to be great. So this is episode 2. Hope you guys enjoy it. I don't know if we like I had to put my phone over here for the Instagram live, and then I've got this over here. So I don't know. I'm figuring it out along the way for sure. And we'll see how it goes. Michael Sims, your Rigoletto with the Boston Youth Symphony is still the best Rigoletto. Oh, Michael, I really truly appreciate that. I have to say that my Rigoletto. So he was commenting on my Rigoletto with the Boston Youth Symphony Orchestra, which was in January of 2013, and it was my first time singing the role. Rigoletto to me is I don't know if it gets much better than that. I had worked very hard. In fact, I remember when I first got the contract and I held it in my hand, I was looking at it, and I was so nervous to sign it in ink, which meant, okay, I'm going to do this. But he has been a good friend, I guess I can say that, over the years. It's a role that I love coming back to. And, for that matter, when we're talking about vocal technique, Rigoletto, some presenters, they might not look at me and think of my voice as being the ideal voice for Rigoletto. It's a very subjective industry. In fact, I was told one time that my voice didn't have enough gruff in it, that it was too beautiful for the role. I'm not sure that I agree with that. I think at the end of the day, Verdi wrote in a bel canto style, and that's still intended to be sung in that way. But I will say, with roles like Rigoletto and Scarpia, both of which I've sung numerous times, you get a certain type of elegance and beauty if you were to hire me, as opposed to a more gruff, rough, rumbly, grovelly kind of sound, which I'm not saying that one's better than the other. It's just what type of sound do you want for that particular character within that particular production, and it can change from time to time. So anyway, I appreciate your comment. And Natalie Levin, it's great to see you too. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and like I said, we'll be back next week with some guests. Hope you guys enjoy.